is now 7:24. You're listening to Times Radio Breakfast. Undercover reporters have heard Just Stop Oil activists plotting to ruin summer holidays. They've been considering gluing themselves to runways and sitting down in airport lounges. We're joined now by Dr. Bing Jones, Just Stop Oil spokesperson. Morning to you.
Good morning.
Tell us then, is this true, these summer plans to disrupt at airports, is that on your schedule?
Well, look, let's just start by putting all this in context, shall we? The climate is getting hot terrifyingly fast. It's getting hot faster than pretty much anybody predicted. We're zooming past 1.5 degrees, and we're heading for temperatures 2.5 degrees, which we've got no idea how safe or otherwise we could even possibly be. And most people they haven't a clue as to what it's going to mean for them. They just don't know. And at the same time, denialism, people saying, oh no, telling the fossil fuel story, saying that, we can just keep doing what we've always done, that's getting stronger and stronger. Look, we're not hearing the scientists with their billions and billions of measurements telling us that things are utterly terrifying. So that's where we start. We start by by looking at the facts. And then we say, what can we do about it? And look, here I am, I'm talking to you now on the radio, not because we've been to any airports, but just because we started talking about airports. So being disruptive gets us airtime.
I understand that, and people would say, well, maybe we shouldn't give you airtime, which would defeat the point, because lots of people do want to talk about climate change and its impacts. And we're very happy to do that on this programme all of the time. I'm interested, though, on airports as a location, because I wonder, would you say, people, bearing in mind the climate crisis, shouldn't get on a plane and go on holiday? Do you believe that actually it's fundamentally wrong for people to go on a plane for the purposes of holiday?
Look, it's got nothing to do with what I believe. It's very simple.
But do you believe it? Do you think it's right or wrong to go on holiday on a plane? I'm just interested.
I believe it's perfectly right to go on holiday.
Yeah.
And I think that for the vast majority of holidays, you don't have to go on a plane. We've got to change. We can't afford to go on flying like we have been doing. When I was young, I'm an old man. When I was young, people couldn't afford to play because they didn't have the money. But now we can't afford because we haven't got the carbon budget.
So I understand that point. So is the argument that follows from that, because of where we are in the world, because airlines are now flights are cheap, we know that, and we know that more people are flying than ever before post-pandemic. Would you make the moral case that it is immoral to go on a holiday abroad on a plane?
Of course it's immoral, because our carbon budget for the 8 billion people on this planet is for a sustainable future where your children and my grandchildren actually have a reasonable, possible chance of a reasonable future. That budget is about the same as flying to the east coast of America. One long-haul flight can use up your honest carbon budget. People don't know that. And if they did know that, if young people knew that they were rogering their future by going on a jolly, they wouldn't go.
I'm not sure that's true. I'm not sure that's true, Bing, because if you look at the evidence, when the pandemic was happening, everyone said, I wonder if people are going to change their habits when it comes to flying. I wonder if this will be a moment where people think, you know what, I'm not going to fly again. And if you look at the profits made by airlines this year, if you look at the flight logs, more people are flying than ever. More people think it's better to fly than they've ever done before. And that argument doesn't seem to be making any difference to them.
You can't say that people think that it's better to fly. People fly because it's cheap, and it's cheap because of the way the rules work and the way that the subsidies work. Governments should be looking after us. They should be putting the money which goes into subsidising flying into subsidising good, proper land-based transport, such as railways. We know exactly what we've got to do. We've got to stop burning oil and gas. We've got to stop burning oil and gas. I've got to say it over and over again. We can't go on flying as we are. I'm sorry to be disruptive. I never want to disrupt anybody. The biggest problem with flying is the 1% of people, 1% of flyers produce 50% of flying emissions. It's a tiny group of people who are fabulously rich and who are flying an enormous amount.
So will you go? Will you go after them? Will you go after them? Will you go to private airfields and close them down? You don't want to close down the flights of a family who only go away once a year. They haven't got very much money. They invest it on a holiday abroad in the sun. You don't want to be stopping them, inconveniencing them, making their holiday awful, do you?
Of course I don't want to do that.
But will you do it?
Of course I don't.
But will you do it?
And if I could possibly target just the frequent flyers, then that's what I would do. But look, I'm a doctor. I'm an old man. I'm a doctor. I spent most of my life looking after people who are really, really ill. And it's terrible telling people that they've got to have some awful treatment for some awful disease. But what's even worse than that is not telling them.
I understand.
And people have got no idea of how bad this situation is and how much worse flying makes it. So I can't sit here and do nothing.
So what will you do? What will you do? Will you go?
People.
Yeah. What will you do? Will you glue yourself to the floor in an airport? Will you stop flights leaving? Will you disrupt flights this summer?
I feel so sad that I have to do this. I would love to be in my garden or with my grandchildren.
But will you do it?
I spend a lot of time disrupting. I've spent time disrupting because it gets me into this situation.
I understand, but I'm just asking, are you going to do it? I mean, is that a yes? Then that's what this summer, some airfield somewhere in an airport, you'll be gluing yourself to stop the plane from leaving.
I think we are planning to target airports. Yes, we are going to do it very, very sadly. We're going to do it. We're going to highlight the fact that our whole system is failing, that the people that should be looking after us are failing us, and that something massive needs to change. I
understand that point. Bing, thank you so much for joining us. That's Dr. Bing Jones there, Just Stop Oil spokesperson, a granddad, a doctor, and coming to an airport near you.
7:32.